A mother reports her 5-year-old daughter missing. Less than 24 hours later, the child's body is found in an abandoned house. This is the story of a child who was not protected. About a mother whose truth turned out to be more dangerous than a lie. And about a system that once again proved too late. On December 13, 2021, in Columbus, Georgia, a call to emergency services would set in motion one of the most heartbreaking investigations the local community had ever witnessed. At approximately 6:15 a.m., 35-year-old Christy Marie Sipple contacted 911 to report that her 5-year-old daughter, Kamarie Holland, was missing from their residence at 1607 Bowman Street. According to Christy's initial report to authorities, she had awakened that morning to find her young daughter gone from the home. The door to the residence was reportedly left open, suggesting to responding officers that whoever had taken the child had left it ajar during the alleged abduction. Please continue to leave your cities in the comments. It's very inspiring to me. Thank you for your incredible support of my channel. Make sure to subscribe and consider becoming a channel sponsor to help continue raising awareness about these important issues. Please share this video with your friends. The little angels deserve to be remembered. Let's get back to the case. Law enforcement immediately began searching the area and gathering information about Kamarie's disappearance. Time was of the essence, as the first few hours in a missing child case are often the most critical. Officers began canvassing the neighborhood, while investigators reviewed security footage from nearby intersections, hoping to catch a glimpse of any suspicious activity near the Bowman Street residence. Meanwhile, the community was alerted to the situation. A 5-year-old girl with a bright smile was missing, and every minute that passed heightened concerns for her safety. Police distributed Kamarie's description and photo throughout Columbus and the surrounding areas. What began as a missing person case would take a devastating turn within hours, revealing circumstances far more sinister than initially apparent. Before delving deeper into the tragedy that befell her, it's important to understand who Kamarie Holland was. A vibrant 5-year-old girl with dreams, personality, and a life that extended far beyond the circumstances of her death. Kamarie Holland was affectionately known as Princess, a nickname that suited her perfectly, according to those who knew her. She was the only daughter among 4 children in her family, with 3 brothers. Her father, Corey Holland, had legal custody of Kamarie, and she lived primarily with him in Phoenix City, Alabama. Despite her young age, Kamarie had already developed a reputation for kindness and generosity that seemed beyond her years. Those who knew her described a child with remarkable empathy and compassion. She was known to notice when others were in need and would immediately want to help them. One story that highlighted Kamarie's generous spirit involved an encounter at a gas station. Her mother recounted that Kamarie noticed a family where one of the little girls didn't have shoes. Without hesitation, the 5-year-old asked if they could give the girl her own shoes, saying, "Mommy, we can help them because I have so many pairs of shoes at home." This innate desire to help others was a defining characteristic of the young girl. Kamarie was described as intelligent and engaged with learning. She had been attending school for only about 3 weeks before her class was temporarily closed due to a COVID-19 exposure. During that brief time in formal education, she had been learning to spell her name and would excitedly point out the letters Kamari whenever she saw them. She had a playful side as well, known for pulling pranks on her brothers and mother. Those who knew her described Kamarie as having a spirit that's been here before, suggesting a wisdom and maturity that seemed remarkable in one so young. Like many young girls, Kamarie loved princesses. She wanted to be a princess, her mother said in one interview. You can tell her nothing. This love for princesses had become part of her identity among family and friends. Kamarie was living a life divided between her parents. She resided primarily with her father, who had legal custody, while spending weekends with her mother under what was supposed to be supervised visitation. This arrangement formed the backdrop against which the tragedy would unfold. The bright-eyed girl with a compassionate heart and princess dreams had touched many lives in her short 5 years. Her story would eventually reach far more people, though sadly for reasons no one could have wished for. The search for Kamarie Holland came to a tragic conclusion. Later that same day, she was reported missing. At approximately 11:15 p.m., just 17 hours after she was reported missing, authorities made a devastating discovery. Less than 10 minutes away from where she was reported missing, across the Chattahoochee River in Phoenix City, Alabama, investigators located Kamarie's body in an abandoned house in the 1100 block of 15th Avenue. The property, as investigators would later reveal, was not randomly selected. It had a connection to someone involved in the case. The abandoned structure stood cold and empty, a stark contrast to what should have been a safe and warm environment for a child. Medical examiners arrived at the scene to begin the process of collecting evidence that would later prove crucial to understanding what had happened to the young girl. According to reports that would emerge from the investigation, Kamarie had been harmed in a manner that no child should ever experience. The medical examiner determined that she had been subjected to physical assault, with authorities later confirming she had been strangled. The little girl's body was transported for autopsy, where medical examiners worked to recover DNA evidence that could help identify the person or persons responsible for this unthinkable act. As news of the discovery spread throughout the community, a profound sense of grief and anger swept through Columbus and Phoenix City. Vigils were organized, balloons were released, and teddy bears placed near the sites connected to Kamarie's short life. The community mourned collectively for a child whose life had been cut tragically short. In the days following Kamarie's disappearance and the discovery of her body, Christy Sipple presented herself to the community and media as a devastated mother. She gave emotional interviews, with tears streaming down her face as she spoke about her daughter. She positioned herself as someone overwhelmed by grief, a parent who had lost her life, her only daughter among 4 children. During an interview with local television station WTVM, Christy portrayed herself as a loving mother suffering an unimaginable loss. "She was my life," Christy told reporters through tears. "I lived for her daily. She was my only girl. I have 3 boys, and her. She was just the sweetest girl in the world." Christy continued to paint a picture of Kamarie as an exceptionally kind and generous child. She recounted stories about her daughter's willingness to help others. "We were at the gas station one time, and we seen a family out there, and one of the little girls didn't have shoes on, and she said, 'Mommy, we can help them, because I have so many pairs of shoes at home. Let's give them my shoes, Mommy.' Of course, we gave them her shoes because she's that caring." In what appeared to be a gesture of goodwill, Christy even participated in WTVM's annual toy drive, arriving with a car full of Kamarie's toys. "I'm Kamarie Holland's mommy," she told organizers, and she would want nothing in the world but to donate her toys to another child that was in need because she was a very helping child. Throughout her public appearances, Christy maintained her innocence regarding her daughter's disappearance and death. "The media is making me look like I'm an evil person, but I'm not," she insisted in one interview. "I'm a mommy, and I did not have nothing to do with this." She also revealed details about the custody arrangement for Kamarie, explaining that the child's father, Kamarie Holland, had primary custody. According to Christy, she only saw Kamarie on weekends, and these visits were supposed to be supervised. "I don't think so," she responded when asked if she would be making funeral arrangements for her daughter. "I think it's all Dad. Dad had custody of her." As the investigation progressed, however, law enforcement would begin to uncover information that would cast doubt on the grieving mother narrative Christy had been presenting to the public. Within hours of discovering Kamarie's body, police had identified a suspect. On the same day as Kamarie's disappearance, authorities arrested 37-year-old Jeremy Williams and charged him with the murder of the 5-year-old girl. The arrest took place at the Bamboo Hotel, where Williams and his uncle had been staying. According to reports, they had arrived at the hotel only about 30 minutes before law enforcement located them. Williams's uncle was not believed to be connected to Kamarie's death. Jeremy Williams was no stranger to law enforcement. As investigators dug into his background, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. A history that raised serious questions about how he had been allowed access to vulnerable children. Most recently, on August 1, 2021, just a few months before Kamarie's death, Williams had been arrested in Muscogee County on charges of simple battery family violence and third-degree cruelty to children. These misdemeanor charges stemmed from an incident in which he allegedly slapped his wife in the face in front of a child. Williams had pleaded not guilty to these charges and was out on bond when Kamarie was killed. But Williams's history with allegations of harming children stretched back much further. In 2009, in Russell County, he had been charged with aggravated child abuse after allegedly immersing a 3-year-old boy in boiling water, causing serious burns. Williams had claimed the child accidentally pulled the water onto himself. After 3 years of legal proceedings, a jury acquitted him in 2012 due to insufficient evidence. Even more disturbing was the revelation that Williams had been the primary suspect in the 2005 death of his own 1-month-old daughter, Nadia Trinice Williams, in North Pole, Alaska. According to reports, the infant had died from injuries consistent with physical assault. However, investigators at the time had been unable to gather enough evidence to bring charges against Williams. Following Williams's arrest in connection with Kamarie's death, authorities in Alaska announced they were reopening the investigation into Nadia's death. Williams had reportedly lived at Eielson Air Force Base in Alaska with Nadia's mother, who worked on the base. Another disturbing allegation came to light as the investigation continued. A 31-year-old woman reported to police that Williams had assaulted her on December 12th, the day before Kamarie was reported missing. According to the police incident report, the woman claimed she had gone to Williams' home on Dozier Street after having an argument with her boyfriend and needing a place to stay. The report detailed that the woman felt uneasy about Williams and attempted to leave, but he allegedly blocked the door with a deep freezer before assaulting her. Perhaps most disturbing was the woman's claim that Williams had called her by Kamarie's name during the incident. As investigators pieced together Williams's background and recent activities, they began to form a clearer understanding of the circumstances surrounding Kamarie's disappearance and death. What they discovered would lead to one of the most shocking revelations in the case. As the investigation into Kamarie's death continued, police returned to Bowman Street in Columbus nearly 2 days after finding her body. Several unmarked law enforcement vehicles were seen at the residence where Kamarie had allegedly gone missing. Investigators were clearly looking for additional evidence that might shed light on what had happened to the young girl. Simultaneously, authorities were investigating the abandoned house in Phoenix City, where Kamarie's body had been discovered. This wasn't just any random location. It was revealed that Jeremy Williams had previously lived at this address. This connection raised immediate questions about how Kamarie had ended up there. Russell County Sheriff Heath Taylor held a press conference providing some insights into the investigation's direction. "We, at this point, believe that the mother and the offender did have a relationship, not from a dating perspective, but did know each other," Taylor stated. "The mother has been spoken to. We're going to speak to her again. I don't know how she's going to turn out, to be honest with you. She may be perfectly fine. She may not be, but that's just part of the investigation." This statement was the first public indication that investigators were scrutinizing Christy Sippel's role in the events surrounding her daughter's death. The sheriff's cautious wording suggested that authorities were still determining the extent of her involvement. As investigators continued to gather evidence and interview witnesses, a disturbing picture began to emerge of the relationship between Christy Sippel and Jeremy Williams. Information surfaced suggesting they had some form of relationship, possibly involving substances as well. Further contradicting the image Christy had presented to the media, investigators learned more about her history. Court records indicated she had previously faced charges related to substance use during pregnancy with her youngest son, described in legal documents as abuse of a fetus. Additionally, she reportedly faced a failure to appear charge for a felony case regarding the chemical endangerment of a child dating back to 2018. The investigation also revealed that, contrary to initial impressions, Kamarie had been living primarily with her father, Kamarie Holland, who had legal custody of her. Christy's contact with her daughter was limited to weekend visits that were supposed to be supervised, raising questions about how Kamarie had come to be in a situation where she was vulnerable to harm. As these details came to light, the community's understanding of the case began to shift dramatically. What had initially appeared to be a tragic abduction was evolving into something far more complex and troubling. On December 28th, just over 2 weeks after Kamarie's body was discovered, federal agents assisted local authorities in arresting Christy Sipple at a Circle K convenience store on Victory Drive around 1 p.m. This arrest marked a stunning turn in the case, as the woman who had presented herself as a grieving mother now faced serious criminal charges related to her daughter's death. According to court records that emerged following her arrest, Christy Sipple and Jeremy Williams had allegedly reached an agreement that involved Kamarie being exploited for terrible purposes. The exact details of this arrangement were not fully disclosed to the public, as judges presiding over the case extended a gag order limiting what information could be released. Russell County Sheriff Heath Taylor announced the charges against Christy at a press conference. She's been charged with murder during the course of kidnapping, murder during the course of assault, murder during the course of inappropriate conduct, and human trafficking. A human trafficking warrant obtained by local media stated that Christy, on or about December 13, 2021, did knowingly subject another person to labor servitude or inappropriate conduct. The document further alleged that she did agree with another person to commit acts against her minor child. Jeremy Williams faced even more extensive charges, including capital murder, kidnapping, assault-related offenses, and production of inappropriate content involving a minor. There were also reports that he might face additional charges related to treatment of a deceased person. The timeline of events became clearer as more information was released. Based on the evidence gathered, investigators believe that Kamarie may have been harmed prior to the incident involving the 31-year-old woman on December 12th. This raised the possibility that the child had been subjected to mistreatment for longer than initially understood. The community responded with shock, grief, and anger as the alleged involvement of Kamarie's own mother came to light. What had begun as a missing person case had evolved into one of the most disturbing criminal investigations in recent local history, revealing a betrayal of the most fundamental trust, that between a parent and child. The revelation of what allegedly happened to Kamarie Holland sent shockwaves through the Columbus and Phoenix City communities. The case highlighted deep concerns about child protection systems and how someone with Jeremy Williams' history of allegations could have continued to have access to vulnerable children. Law enforcement officials faced questions about why previous cases involving Williams hadn't resulted in convictions that might have prevented future harm. The case in Alaska, involving his infant daughter and the boiling water case in 2009, had both ended without convictions due to what was described as insufficient evidence. The community struggled to comprehend how a mother could allegedly be involved in such harm to her own child. Vigils and memorial gatherings became places not only of mourning, but also of expressing collective outrage and calls for justice. Many in the community expressed their determination that this case would not fade from memory without accountability. Local support services for children reported increased awareness and vigilance following the case. Community members became more attuned to signs of potential child endangerment, with many expressing a renewed commitment to reporting suspicious situations to authorities. Schools in the area used the tragedy as an opportunity to review their own safety protocols and educational programs about personal safety for children. Though Kamarie had only briefly attended school before COVID-19 disruptions, her absence was deeply felt by the educational community that had known her, however briefly. Media coverage of the case extended well beyond local news, bringing national attention to the tragedy and the alleged crimes of Christy Sipple and Jeremy Williams. This spotlight increased pressure on the legal system to ensure justice would be served. As the legal proceedings against Christy Sipple and Jeremy Williams began their slow journey through the justice system, the community focused on honoring the memory of Kamarie Holland, a 5-year-old girl whose life had been tragically cut short. Vigils were held throughout Columbus and Phoenix City, where community members gathered to light candles, release balloons, and share memories of the young girl with the bright smile who had touched many lives despite her young age. "I thank God that she's safely in His hands," said one community member during a memorial service. "I thank God that she's out of this world. I thank God that she's safe not to experience any more harm, hate, or danger. Kamarie's father, Kamarie Holland, received an outpouring of support as he faced the unimaginable task of laying his young daughter to rest. Community members rallied around him, offering emotional and practical support during this devastating time. For those who knew Kamarie, they remembered a vibrant child full of joy and compassion. She used to do all kinds of prankster stuff to her brothers and her mother and all of us, recalled one family member. She was an angel, and now she will live as our angel. Another relative spoke at a memorial event. She was my cousin, and all the smiles she gave me, she made me laugh. I will never forget you, princess. I will forever keep you relevant in this life. The case of Kamarie Holland serves as a sobering reminder of the vulnerability of children and the critical importance of protective systems designed to keep them safe. It highlights the need for vigilance, awareness, and community support in protecting the most innocent among us. As the community continues to heal from this tragedy, the memory of a 5-year-old girl who loved to be a princess lives on in the hearts of those who knew her and those who came to know her story. In remembering Kamarie, there is a collective commitment to ensuring that her story leads to greater awareness and protective measures for other vulnerable children. In the words shared at one of her memorials, "From the mountaintop down to the deepest valley, hear a voice calling you. It's the rising sun shining in the darkest valley. Can't you see you will be free?" For Kamarie Holland, that freedom came too late and at too high a cost. But in her memory, a community found purpose in ensuring that her story would not be forgotten and that her life, though tragically brief, would have lasting meaning.